So today we're going to dive into a framework of 8 really powerful ideas. Think of them as visuals designed to completely change how you approach your work and honestly, your life. We're going to break down how you can go from just feeling busy to actually being productive. Let's jump in.
Sound familiar? I bet it does. It's that feeling we all know so well. Your calendar is jam-packed. You're firing off emails, you're hopping between meetings. But then the day ends, you look back and think, what did I actually get done today? That feeling right there, that's exactly what we're going to tackle.
All right, so how do we fix that feeling of empty busyness? Well, it all starts with building the engine. First, we've got to talk about how to turn that initial resistance, that inertia, into some real unstoppable momentum. Look, we all love the idea of talent, right? This natural-born ability. But here's the thing. The real game changer isn't talent, it's discipline. Talent is kind of fickle, It waits around for inspiration to strike. Discipline, though? Discipline creates its own inspiration just by showing up, day in and day out. And that brings us to our very first action. I want you to forget about making some massive life-altering change. Instead, start with something tiny. Seriously, write for just 5 minutes. Do one single push-up. Read one page of a book. The point here isn't the big result right away. It's all about building the muscle of consistency. Which leads me to this really powerful way of thinking about it, the one brick method. See, we get totally overwhelmed when we think about building an entire wall. But walls aren't built in a day. They're built one single brick at a time. So the only question you need to ask yourself is, what's my one brick for today? And that's really the key here. We're always waiting for the perfect time, the perfect mood, the perfect plan. But progress doesn't care about any of that. Progress only cares about one thing, action, no matter how small or imperfect it is.
Okay, I absolutely love this next quote. Overthinking is basically fear's playground. The more we sit there and analyze and plan without actually doing anything, the bigger that monster in our head gets. But the second you take a step, the moment you move, that fear starts to shrink. Action is the cure.
So right now, here's your challenge. Think about that one thing you've been putting off, the one you've been overthinking. Don't worry about finishing it. Just take one ridiculously small first step. Send the email, open the document, make the phone call. The goal is simple. Just get moving. Okay, so we've got the engine running, which is great, but an engine running without a steering wheel, that's just going to send you spinning in circles. This next section is all about the compass. It's about making sure all that new energy and momentum is pointed in the right direction.
I want you to think about your focus like it's a tank of fuel. It's a limited resource, right? And every single drop you use determines where your energy flows. This makes your attention, hands down, the most valuable asset you have for doing work that actually matters. And because that fuel is so precious, you gotta protect it. So, for the next 24 hours, what's one little distraction you can get rid of? Maybe turn off notifications on your phone, or close all those extra browser tabs. It's just one small move to plug a leak in your fuel tank.
And this idea ties right into our last point. Every single time you say yes to something, a new project, another meeting, a small request, you are by default saying no to everything else you could have done with that time. So to protect your biggest priorities, you have to get really comfortable with saying no. I know, this can feel tough, but it is so important. So here's the challenge for today. Find one low priority request and just politely say no. Don't think of it as a rejection. Think of it as an act of protection for the work that truly means something to you. Now, this next one is a really crucial distinction I want you to think about. Are you in motion or are you in action? See, motion feels productive. It's the planning, the researching, the strategizing, but it doesn't actually create an outcome. Action is what moves the needle. It's not just outlining the chapter, it's writing it. So how do we actually do that? How do we get out of motion and into action? Simple. We define the finish line before we even start. Before you begin anything, just ask yourself, what is the one tangible result that means this was a success? That clarity becomes your compass, pointing you straight to meaningful action. All right, this brings us to our final section, and honestly, this might be the most powerful one of all. We've talked about getting started, and we've talked about directing our energy. Now, we're going to connect all these daily actions to the biggest project you'll ever have, designing who you become. We're all obsessed with goals. I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to write a book. But goals are just the destination on the map.
The system is the car that actually gets you there. A person who works out consistently doesn't just have a goal, they have a system. A person who writes every day has a system. Your results are just a lagging measure of the processes you built. So I want you to think about a goal you have right now where you feel kind of stuck. Now, forget the goal for a second and just focus on the process. What's a simple, repeatable system you could build around it? Not write a book, but write 200 words every morning at 8 a.m. See the difference? That's a system.
And this all builds to the ultimate point, which is who you are isn't set in stone. It's something you're actively building with every single choice you make. Each time you go to the gym, you're casting a vote for being a healthy person. Every time you sit down to write, you're casting a vote for being a writer. So here is maybe the most powerful action you can take before today is over. Make one small choice that lines up with the person you want to become. Eat a healthy meal. Read a chapter instead of scrolling social media. Do the hard thing first. Each one of those choices is a building block for your future self.
Okay, we've covered a ton of ground here, and it's easy to feel like, wow, I've got to do all of this at once. But the real beauty of this whole framework is that it doesn't ask you to do everything. It just asks you to focus on one thing. So we've gone all the way from building momentum to actually architecting our identity. And it really all comes down to these 8 small, deliberate actions. Repeat a tiny habit. Lay one brick. Take a tiny step. Remove one distraction. Say no to one thing. Define your outcome. Build a simple system, and make one choice that's aligned with who you want to be. Each one is simple, but when you put them together, they're completely transformative.
And that brings us right back to you and to this final, really important question. You don't have to do all 8. Just pick one. What is the single action you are going to commit to in the next 24 hours? Because that's where your transformation begins.